All right. What's up, everyone? Hello. Welcome to the Unblinded Huddle. Sean, what's happening, sir?
How are you? How's everybody out there in the unblinded world doing? A little bit of Dreams by Van Halen to get the day started. And Fernando and all you fine folks out there, thank you so much for being here this morning. And we are committed to making this the way to start the day and get things rolling to free more exponential abundance in your money, time, and magic. And what that's all about is simple, fun, and magical micro distinctions in frictionlessness that free that exponential level of money, time, and magic. And there's a formula. There's process mastery, there's influence mastery, and self-mastery. And this Trajectory Tuesday, we're going to drop in for some conversation around that. And those aren't just words and phrases. There's a power of language. There's a power of context. And the power of language and context is like, how do you do things without a language around them? Like, how would you play the drums without understanding that a drumstick is a drumstick and that a drum is a drum and that like the pedal thing that hits the thing, so I don't even know how this works exactly. How would you optimize your mastery unless you had a language around things? Like there's notes in music to teach people to sing beautifully, make things happen. There's instruments and tunes and songwriting. Like there's language and things. There's a formula, a mechanism, a construct. And that's what we're here to have for your success, particularly your success in your business. But all of these, let me say that again, particularly your success in your business, your money, your time, your magic, but also in everything that we do. And that's where we start the day. Like this is where we are. We're grounding ourselves because most 99.99% of the world has no language for it. It sounds like things like work hard, care, try, do this, do that, social media posting and digital marketing and, strategic alliances and public speaking engagements and selling and be, leaders eat last and, tipping points and outliers and 99 ways of closing. How do we assimilate all that into a usable construct and not a bunch of disconnected, endless ideas on how to do different things? Like what's that philosophy that's unifying, makes it all grow? We had somebody wonderfully on from the world of Dale Carnegie, and I have, tremendous respect, for the world of how to win friends and influence people. And again, with all respect, I would say that is a beautiful book. That's the beginning, kind of like, the idea of the telegraph, right? Or let's even say a rotary phone will compare to an iPhone. It did some disconnected things, right, in communication, which were beautiful and groundbreaking and brilliant and incredible, right? Taking nothing away, but then there's innovative levels of acceleration and how all of these things actually work. And that's where we are in the space of process, influence, and self-mastery. And that's what we're talking about. So with that said, Fernando, we're going to jump in with our guest for today. Is Teresa live yet, or still awaiting Teresa's live arrival?
I believe Teresa is here. She was just here, and now we're gonna give her a few moments to unmute,
I'm back.
turn the camera on. Hey,
Teresa.
well, what up, Teresa? Happy to have you here.
Hey,
Sean,
how are you?
Hey, how are you? What's cooking? And quick, so first of all, Teresa, like you are tremendous person as a part of the movement in our elite mastery coaching program. You are a realtor extraordinaire. And let's just like talk about a check-in with you. Huddle, formula, unblinded. What do those things mean to you and how are they applying to your life?
Okay. Thank you, by the way, for that wonderful acknowledgement. So what do those things mean to me? Well, the huddle, the movement, the unblinded movement, after 20 years of being in real estate sales, I was really burnt out on the process, on the interaction, on how to stay in my heart and still service my clients. As a matter of fact, I spent probably the entire summer off last summer. I couldn't even have a conversation with people. I was so unable to say the things I needed to say to people out of integrity. And so therefore sometimes wouldn't say them, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And I know sometimes we all sort of get in that trap in our business with people because you don't want to offend your clients. you don't want to push them away. So you're afraid to say, tell them, look, you're getting in your own way. So I insert into my intersection with Sean Callaghy and coming to the event in January. So the Huddle, so to bring that all back to the Huddle, it's created a culture and an ecosystem for me of, number one, like it gave me a renewed sense of, like it just gave me a renewed excitement and energy around the space of being able to have those conversations, really enjoying my interactions with my clients again. And the community, it's like created an entire ecosystem of other people who are around me who want to live in that authentic place. And that, Sean, is magical.
Wow. Well, thank you, Teresa. And what makes it magical is people like you, because, we've seen How to Create a Movement videos. Somebody could be a lone nut dancing, and it's when there's people and it's leaders leading leaders and opening up for their own growth and development, which is what everybody here is doing. And you are such a phenomenal example of that. So I thank you tremendously. And with that said, quick 30-second check-in so you have a chance to share your heart. Why are you doing what you're doing? What's your why? What's the vision for your life? What are you up to building in the world?
Well, I mean, I have this little family of 5 children and a husband. And so that's a big part of my why, that's a lot of people. And
Yes.
I want to be able, I want to be able to give a contribution to them in the space around time, and in the space around finances, and really also interaction, being able to have memories together. So that's a big why for me.
Yeah. Magic, right? So, and this is, by the way, we're going to be moving into this format for a bit with the Huddle, and going to be interested to see, how people appreciate it and feedback. We're going to have somebody on each day that's very special, intensely involved in things that are happening in Unblinded. And Teresa, thank you for doing that. And then we also want to add, serve you and everybody out there. So whenever we're listening to each of these fine folks, it's like, where do you see yourself in them? And how would you be coaching up some of what they're going to be saying? And so this section, and I want to also pivot, everybody's leadership will be a super effective leadership dynamic. And some of this is modeled after Ken Blanchard's The 1 Minute Manager, which is an incredible book that talks about the progression and duplication of leadership centered around lots of communication up front and then less and less communication over time, to create duplication. And so instead of saying questions to people, it's like, hey, what's something that you're working on as a very meaningful breakthrough? And then what's your proposed solution? And then we can either give you more certainty, like absolutely boom, or micro distinction twist, versus, hey, I have a question, what's this whole thing about emotional rapport? Right? Because what asking questions that way does for you and for all the people that you're leading over time is it teaches them to use questions as a break point. It creates a level of fake confusion, more of a fixed mindset. So we're trying to accelerate and demonstrate this collectively. So remember, we're doing multiple layers of things. We're conditioning in duplicatable patterns of all sorts of conduct for your increase and scaling, for you, for the people you love and care about, impacting different ways and areas. So what we're going to do with each of these fine folks every morning is so Teresa, what are you working on? Key breakthrough for you, or key freeing. Let's, instead of saying breakthrough even, let's go with the freeing of more exponential abundance, a key focus in that space. And this is what you're doing on it, and say, hey, I'm pretty sure this is what it's supposed to be, or I think this is what it's supposed to be. And then we'll check in and give you some certainty, which would be the cousin of a question, right? So it's really answering something, giving certainty, giving clarity, but phrasing it where you're coming up with the solution a little bit yourself. Does that sound fair?
Okay.
Yeah. So what's like a key thing that we could support you in increasing certainty and clarity on right now? You think it's this and you're doing that, and yeah.
What's a key thing? So let me just repeat that back. What's a key thing that you can support me in increasing clarity?
Yeah. Pretend it would be a question. Like, what would be the
Okay.
biggest question you would have, right? And then what you're going to do is answer your own question, is really what it
Okay.
is, and say, hey,
Yeah.
my answer would be, right, that's like that. Yep.
Okay. So I would say, all right, well, let's talk about the creating the real raw opens around my, being a real estate agent, right? Being a real estate broker. And what's the most optimal way for me to choose partnerships in that, right? What's the most optimal way for me to create that?
Awesome.
So that would be, so then to answer that, right, you want me to come up with some ideas.
Yeah. So so your question was, what would be the most optimal? First, it was
Yeah.
like number of people, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think
So
that would be? Your
my
real estate.
avatars, right?
Yeah.
So I think it would be professional services, different types of attorneys, financial advisors. I also think.
So let's create your ideal 10 then. So like an
Yep.
ideal 10-person real raw open, not your 10 by 10, a real raw open, right? So what would be your ideal real raw open then? Would be, so let's break it down, and we're gonna do this super fast, right?
Yep.
So what would be like the types? You said different types of attorneys. What would those types be?
Family law attorneys.
Yeah, awesome.
Bankruptcy attorneys.
Awesome.
Estate planning attorneys.
Awesome. I wasn't even thinking bankruptcy attorneys. That's awesome, Teresa. That's what my distinctions get to. So bankruptcy attorney, estate planning attorneys, divorce attorneys. What else?
CPAs.
Beautiful.
Financial planners.
Yeah. CP.
Definitely hairdressers.
Now let's even watch this micro distinction. CPAs that work with people of what type of economic means? Like, remember, it's not saying, well, anybody would be good, but what's optimal? People that work with what kind of means financially, would you say, in the CPA space?
I would say in the CPA space, someone who works with the middle to upper tier.
Cool. Awesome.
Right. So like someone who had a corporate job, who has a pension, who's, planning their retirement.
Awesome. Okay. So we have family attorneys, estate planning attorneys, bankruptcy attorneys, CPAs working with, what probably for most of America would be considered in that category, upper middle income to upper income, right? Because, New Jersey, the numbers would probably be higher than certain places around the country. And then especially, in the different regions you're talking about. And then what else? So you started saying a couple others.
Oh yeah, definitely a hairdresser.
Okay.
Or two. Or maybe a manicurist.
Why would you ever think that a hairdresser or manicurist would be a good person for that group? Like, how does that work?
Because they have captive audience, right? They have repeat clients that learn to trust them and talk to them over time. When they come in and they sit in the chair, they share everything that's happening in their life. And I even just from personal experience, I've had more referrals from a hairdresser 2 counties away, 3 counties away of clients moving this way than I have ever had from an attorney.
It's awesome. And how would a family law attorney, so remember the other part of this, right, everybody, is that when you're building out groups of anything, so whether it's a 10 by 10 or a speaking engagement, people that you're partnering with, an ecosystem merger, building out your 10 by 10, anything that you're doing in the space of ecosystem merging, the key question is what's in it for them? Like, what's in it for them? So who do you think would want to meet a hairdresser? Like, out of the other people you've mentioned so far, right? You mentioned accountants and bankruptcy attorneys, estate attorneys, family attorneys. Who do you think would want to meet a hairdresser most out of that group?
The divorce attorney, the family law. Yeah.
And so why is that?
For the very same reason that I said, that women who come sit in the chair, women or men really, they have a level of trust with their hairdresser, because they see them on a regular basis, and the relationship is one where they're sitting there and they can just be real. And so the hairdresser's going to know before anybody else when someone's in need of a divorce.
Right. And just to play this out for the speed of time.
Mm-hmm.
So to get the distinction of like real raw open equals the ability to meet lots of people rapidly, right? So for example, one of the structural dynamic challenges of certain networking organizations, first of all, is the construct of like referral for referral versus ecosystem merging.
Mm-hmm.
But the other challenge is the fixed nature of the people in the group. What happens if you're in the group and these people don't do business with you? You're stuck, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's it. Like, okay, so there's a hair salon owner in the group and he or she doesn't refer, or he or she just doesn't refer to you. And then you got to either like leave the group and you spent 40 mornings in a diner. It's like, oh my God, what do I do now? Right. So with running your own 10 by 10, that's your group. Like that's your group. Hire fast, fire fast. Like that's the people that you like, these are the optimal avatars for you in all the different ways we talk about. The Real Raw Open is a ground for you to meet lots of different people. And some of them can come into the 10s of your 10, directly into your 10, right? So that's an incubation relationship creation space, but it's your ability to meet lots of different people. So you don't get stuck with one person. And the biggest challenge that I think people have, Teresa, and everybody, is in the space of ecosystem merging, right? Is the fixation of, oh, like I found a divorce attorney.
Mm-hmm.
I found an accountant, right? Like, no, are they optimal? And even if they seemed optimal, are they performing? Are they committed? It's like you owning everybody out there, and Teresa, you too. And this is like across the board for all ecosystem merging. Does it make sense for you and them? Is it sustainable? So what Teresa's talking about in the Real Raw Open is how she enriches things for the people who are coming. And Teresa, do you think that the people in your Real Raw Open should be people for your business, real estate, family law attorney, estate planning, hair salon? How far away from each other do you think these people should live?
Well, in my area that I live, it's a rural area, so I would say no more than 20 miles.
Yeah. So like, it definitely shouldn't be like a hair salon in Nebraska, a state attorney from like Wyoming, right? Like that's not what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So for everybody, one of the other challenges that I think we can face is a lack of intentionality in how we're merging ecosystems. It's like, who are the avatars? Where are we going? Awesome stuff, Teresa. So now let's keep going. Hair salon. Who else would you want to see in one of your 10? And be thinking everybody with Teresa of who are the optimal avatars for you. So who else would you want to see?
A therapist or a relationship coach.
Yeah, right. Therapist, relationship coach. And that's going to service which people in that group? Just say them quickly.
It'll service the attorneys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And perhaps the accountant and perhaps the hair salon. Because by the way, and I'll just drop in this, you're like, well, what's the hair salon owner going to get out of this? Well, hair salon owners want to be unique, again, compared to other hair salons. So what would it look like if like the hair salon owner in this times of COVID and others is having like a virtual party, like hangs out, like connects with like Schuling or something, is like getting wine, like piped into some like of a few of the most ideal referral clients and having a little wine party. And then they're having like a conversation for the people that are there about real estate, family law. And what if, Teresa, you brought in 5 of your clients into it and you committed to do it in a separate speaking engagement? This is like how to merge ecosystems and build your own speaking engagements after you're connecting on the Real Raws and what you're doing with your 10, and each of you bring 5. And now this person's meeting 5 new potential clients and or connectors, right? Because you brought them in, everybody's doing something. So the hair salon owner's doing something unique and special as well. And you're like, well, I talked to a hair salon owner and she said she didn't want to do that. I'm like, okay, like there's like, I once looked at this. My office in Paramus, New Jersey, there was something like 55 hair salons in the affluent towns north of Paramus within 10 minutes. 55 hair salons that was not going west or south. It was all going just north. This is like 100 hair salons within a 10-mile radius. I am confident in every direction of Paramus, maybe 15-mile radius. Mm-hmm. So there's so many people out there. It's like, just don't get stuck. So so any other, so hair salon, therapist, and is that financial services? And by the way,
maybe mortgage people.
Mortgage people, beautiful. And by the way, do you think you should have one of each in your RERA open, or perhaps have like two of some? What do you think?
I would say two.
Why?
For many reasons, multiple reasons, right? There adds a little bit of competition where it's not a relationship where they're looking at it like I'm there to completely serve them, and there's not going to be any kind of reciprocity, right? When they know that there's multiple people that I interact with, there's going to be times where if we're creating together, one is better than another, or one's more available than another. It's just practical.
Yeah. And the biggest thing that you want to be conditioning into people, everybody, and this will be our last 60 seconds or so with Teresa. I'm going to have a quick final wrap-up teaching point that's related but distinct. For everybody out there, right? You want to be conditioning and training people, not to like, oh, you ask them to come and oh my goodness, like, wow, thank you for coming. Like, it is, thank you for coming. But like, there's the realization of that there's the need to give. You hear me talk about it a lot. I have the unique privilege of speaking at Business Mastery this Thursday at 5 p.m. if anybody's going to be there, or 5 p.m.-ish. Tony Robbins event. And some people have said to me at time, like, well, why do you still do that? I'm like, because first of all, I have such gratitude to Tony Robbins that I would do that forever for what he's done for my life. That's one. Two, so it's like, that's generous contribution, right? Two, I want to support people and seeing what they don't see, but the power of the Platinum Partnership ecosystem. Three, there's a lot in it for me, right? Being up in front of, speaking in front of thousands of people. Teresa, is that a good or a bad thing?
That's an amazing thing.
Yeah. So when people come to what you're doing, let us gently remind, you gently remind them lovingly. It's a place to give. And the way I made it to that stage is I gave. I gave from my heart. I gave from my energy. I contributed. I was not like that's what I did for a long time there. I love people. I help people. One of the first things I ever did in that environment was I woke up, one of the people in my group was Bayman Zakari, who that night I met with Deepak, and Deepak may or may not remember this. Bayman tells a story. It was Mariah, Bayman, and Deepak, all of whom were at the immersion. And Bayman had a crazy legal problem that hit him literally while sitting at the thing, which wasn't going to be something I could help him with from where he was. It just wouldn't have made sense for me to, it wasn't like work for me. And I just said, dude, he had a call the next morning. I said, please let me get on that call with you. I wasn't going to make any money, do anything. He's like, what? He's like, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. He's like, you get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and get on this call with me? I go, absolutely. Like, I'll meet you down by the pool. And I got it. I couldn't believe it. And that did like 50 other things. But my intention wasn't to have it do 50 other things. It was to come with a mindset of giving. So what you're fostering in your Real Raw Opens, your ecosystem mergers, your speaking engagements, and the crowds you talk to, the people you lead, your 10 by 10s, is the notion of giving and mutuality. And Teresa, you certainly embody and represent that. And I'm super grateful. How is your clarity feeling about the construct now of building out your Real Raw Open?
How my clarity is way more. It's like from a week ago to today, like 100 times better.
Okay. And how is your clarity on why it benefits you to build out a Real Raw Open as well as the participants?
On a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 10.
Awesome. All right. And let's end with a fun fact about Teresa.
I don't know what my fun fact. I love rock. I love rock and roll. So if you have live music playing, I'll be there.
All right. And what's your favorite rock artist, or one of your favorites?
Oh, I don't know. Stone Temple Pilots.
Nice. All right. So we will start with a Stone Temple Pilots song tomorrow morning, Chaz. What's your favorite Stone Temple Pilots? To start the huddle tomorrow, Teresa, what do you want to start with?
I don't know. I'll have to text Lily and think about that.
Text. Teresa, thank
Nice.
you. Have an amazing Trajectory Tuesday. Fernando, your takeaways from this, sir.
Team, first of all, Teresa, thank you. Takeaways are vast. I truly, truly appreciate your share. Big takeaways is we got Amy Burton in the chat, and she's a hairdresser in South Carolina, North Carolina, and there's like a lot of chatter in the chat. So Amy, we'd love to have you here on the huddle. I love what you said at the beginning of 1 Minute Manager. I think ... yes, just beautiful container to be asking questions. And I love this morning huddle. I love mutual accountability structure. I love fun facts, and like Teresa's being like all modest about it, because when we spoke, she's like, yeah, man, I'd be like sliding, jamming with my air guitar. People be coming in, hopping in the pool. All this has happened. I'm like, who am I talking to? I don't even know. I think I might have made this up in my head, but I think she's like driving a motorcycle, or at least that's how I envision, Teresa now. So that's where I'm at for takeaways.
Amazingness. So, and we're going to tighten up. So I know it went a little bit longer today outside the timeline. We're going to keep tightening and, working through that. But I am super confident that was very valuable, not only for Teresa, but for everybody here. Do not forget the power of context. Like you are creating your own ecosystem, right? You are creating your own ecosystem within this ecosystem and without this ecosystem, right? Whatever you want to do, your call. But you have and are creating your own ecosystem. Never forget the power of your leadership and context. Like the Navy SEALs are the Navy SEALs. And you may say, well, there's bad things there. Listen, they're one of the most elite, productive fighting forces imaginable. Whatever other collateral dynamics. The New England Patriots, the New York Yankees, they have context. They have culture. The context and culture is about something. So the question this Trajectory Tuesday for your acceleration is, what is your context? What is your culture? What is the culture of your ecosystem? You're an ecosystem. What is that culture? Is it about supporting people in more money, time, and magic? Or is it about like, I really don't know, I'm confused, right? How committed are you to leadership for scaling? How committed are you to loving people? How does that show up for you? How do you deal with conflict? Like, what's the culture that's going to sit around you and the conscious choices for it? Like, that's what we're talking about. And I'm immensely grateful for every single person being here today, every day, making intentional choices about your life, because nobody is coming to rescue you. Nobody's coming to rescue me. Nobody's coming to rescue anybody. You're in charge. It's beautiful. It's loving. It's connected. And you could form amazing bridges with people, amazing bridges of like-minded people who want to create a mutuality of culture, right? Alignment, ecosystem merging, 10 by 10 Railroad Open, other speaking engagements, other things. Because remember, it's about also bridging out to other maximum speaking engagements. And final on Trajectory Tuesday. Never forget the ant and the grasshopper. That fun little cartoon parable story from back in the day, right? And the ant was like work, like building things. The grasshopper's like, yay, playing, like kind of floating. Oh, ant, you're so silly with all that stuff you're building and doing. And then winter came, and the grasshopper was knocking and saying, please let me in. Please let me in. And we will post that cartoon by tomorrow. Chaz, if you could support, find that cartoon, I'll verify. And like the grasshopper's freezing, the ants were in there having an amazing time, living off the residual abundance of what they created. And the relationships you're creating and the incubation dynamics and the clarity of agreement and the learning creates residual money, time, and magic for you as you rise in your trajectory. It is Trajectory Tuesday. This is Unblinded. On behalf of Fernando Valencia, Adam Gugino, the entire Unblinded team, I'm Sean Calgi. Have an amazing day. And thank you. And thank you, Teresa.